Welcome to a new episode of Decoding MENA, the show that unravels the complex events shaping the Middle East and the world. With me today is geopolitics expert Dr. Yasser. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our exclusive analysis. Doctor, we have a fascinating story today. Trump and Putin are set to meet in Alaska to end the war in Ukraine. But it's not as simple as it sounds. Why was Alaska chosen as the specific location for this meeting?
Well, the issue has deep historical roots. Alaska was once Russian territory before the U.S. bought it for $7.2 million in 1867. By choosing this location, Putin is sending a coded message.
So it's not just about geographical proximity.
Not at all. It's a reminder of history and a reference to complex issues that go far beyond just Ukraine.
Let's go back in time. How did Russia end up selling Alaska to the U.S.?
The story began in the 18th century, during a heated rivalry between Britain and Imperial Russia. Britain was the dominant power at the time, and it wanted to contain Russia and prevent it from accessing warm waters in the Mediterranean.
And did the U.S. play a role in this?
The U.S. at the time was, you could say, still finding its footing. But the war left Russia in a deep financial crisis. So they decided to sell Alaska, a territory they were only using for sea otter hunting.
Why didn't they sell it to Canada, for example?
Canada was under British control. Russia wasn't about to hand over its land to its arch-rival Britain, so the U.S. was the most suitable option, especially since they were allies in that war.
And the U.S. agreed right away?
No, they didn't. The U.S. initially refused. They saw Alaska as nothing more than a frozen, useless piece of land. If it weren't for Secretary of State William Seward, who saw the future and said, "This is the gateway to the Pacific and our first line of defense," the deal would have fallen through.
And it really turned out to be a smart investment.
Can you believe it? Just 50 years later, they found $1 billion worth of gold there. Today, Alaska is full of oil, rare earth minerals, and massive resources. It's the smartest deal in American history.
So why did Putin specifically choose Alaska for the negotiations?
There are two messages here. The first is diplomatic. A Kremlin advisor said that Alaska is close to Russia, and it's the only area where the two countries don't have disputes.
And the second message?
This one is a veiled threat. There have been billboards in Russia with the slogan, "Alaska is ours." The Speaker of the Russian parliament said, "We can reclaim Alaska at any time." It's more of a threat than a negotiation.
How did the U.S. respond?
The U.S. State Department spokesperson was very clear. Even if Putin says that, he can't take Alaska from the U.S. It's escalated into an exchange of thinly veiled threats.
What conditions has Putin set to end the war?
The conditions are tough, almost impossible. First, he wants to keep all the territory he has occupied in eastern and southern Ukraine, 4 full regions. Second, prevent Ukraine from joining NATO. Third, demilitarize the Ukrainian army. Fourth, prevent Ukraine from making military agreements with anyone.
Those are very harsh terms.
And even harsher is that he wants to choose the new Ukrainian government. He wants to install a pro-Russian government. He also wants to stop NATO from expanding to any country on Russia's borders.
And is Trump on board with these conditions?
Trump sees Putin giving up 2 of the 4 regions as a great achievement. But the truth is, Putin is smart. He occupied 4 regions so he could negotiate to keep 2.
What is Ukraine's position on these terms?
Zelensky is still begging Trump to attend the negotiations, but Putin refuses to sit at the same table with him.
How can they negotiate to end a war without one of the main parties to the conflict?
That's the key question. Zelensky says, first, I don't agree to cede any Ukrainian territory. Second, even if I were to agree as president, we'd need a popular referendum because the Constitution prohibits giving away land.
And what's Europe's stance on this?
Europe and Ukraine insist on a ceasefire before starting negotiations. It's illogical to negotiate while missiles are still flying.
Why did Trump impose sanctions on India at the same time he was going to reconcile with Putin?
This is a complex pressure strategy. India imports 2 million barrels of Russian oil daily. That's 35% of India's oil imports. So Trump imposed an additional 50% tariff on Indian products.
Why didn't he sanction China as well?
China imports 5 million barrels of Russian oil daily, half of Russia's exports. But the US needs China for rare earth minerals. 90% of America's rare earth minerals come from China.
So Trump is playing a selective game.
Exactly. India is easy to sanction, but China could cripple the US by withholding rare earth minerals. It's happened before, and Trump was forced to back down.
Will India stop buying from Russia?
It's very difficult. India buys Russian oil below the global market price, under $60 a barrel. Then they mix it with Indian oil and sell it to Europe at a higher price. It's a profitable business for them.
What's the deal with these rare earth minerals that seem to control everything?
This is the real story behind everything that's happening. Ukraine has rare earth minerals worth $15 trillion. If Putin wins the occupied regions, he'll get 70% of those minerals.
And of course, Trump wants a piece of that pie.
Of course, Trump wants Ukraine to lose, so they'll cede their minerals in exchange for a peace agreement. He doesn't want Ukraine to win the war because if they do, they won't give up anything.
So, in the end, it's all about economic interests.
Exactly. Trump wants to reduce his dependence on Chinese minerals, so he needs Ukraine's minerals. And Putin wants these minerals to strengthen the Russian economy. Ukraine is the victim.
What are the likely scenarios for these negotiations?
Scenario 1. Putin agrees to softened terms in exchange for recognition of Russia's annexation of Crimea and 2 regions in eastern Ukraine, along with guarantees that Ukraine won't join NATO.
And the second scenario?
The failure of negotiations and a return to escalation. Putin isn't forced to agree to anything. The war is profitable for him, both economically and militarily.
What indicators should we watch out for?
Zelensky's stance. Will he attend the negotiations or not? And Europe's position on any agreement made without him. Also, global oil prices. If they rise, Putin wins no matter what.
Who are the winners and losers in this equation?
Putin is the winner in all cases. If the war ends, he gets new territories and 70% of the rare earth minerals. If the war continues, oil prices will rise, and he'll profit even more.
And Trump?
Trump needs a quick political victory. If he succeeds in ending the war, even on unfair terms, he'll say he solved a problem that Biden couldn't. If he fails, he'll blame Russia and China.
And Ukraine?
Ukraine is the biggest loser. It will lose land, natural resources, and political independence. The Ukrainian people will pay the price in the end.
And Europe?
Europe is in a difficult position. If it accepts the agreement, it will legitimize the occupation by force. If it refuses, it could lose its alliance with the new US administration.
How do you see the overall picture?
What's happening in Ukraine isn't just a regional war, it's a reshaping of the global power structure. Everyone needs to pay attention to these developments because they will affect all of us.
Today, we are facing a scene that could change the world map as we know it. What you saw in recent days isn't just a normal diplomatic meeting. It could be the most important summit since the Yalta Conference in 1945. What we saw in Alaska was fascinating. As soon as Russian President Putin arrived, the reception was not traditionally diplomatic, but militarily dominant. The moment Putin stepped on Alaskan soil, American B-2 Spirit stealth bombers flew overhead with a group of F-22 Raptor fighters. More Raptors were positioned around the red carpet Putin was about to walk on, to the point that the Russian president got distracted from Trump and started looking at the fighter jets surrounding him. This scene has a profound significance because these specific aircraft, both the stealth bombers and the Raptor fighters, were designed during the Cold War specifically to threaten the Soviet Union. When the US decided to build aircraft custom-tailored for a war with the Soviet Union, this was the result. But the question is, did Trump actually succeed in intimidating Putin?
Putin didn't respond to this provocation himself. His foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, took care of it. Lavrov entered the meeting building wearing a T-shirt with CCCP, the Russian acronym for Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, written on it. The message was clear. Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union and will remain so. Ukrainian media described this as a provocation, especially since he was there to negotiate an end to the war in Ukraine.
To understand the importance of what's happening, let's go back to history. The Yalta Conference in 1945 brought together the three most important heads of state in the world after World War II. This meeting resulted in the division of Europe, specifically Germany, led to Germany being split into East and West. 2 years later, the Cold War between the US and the Soviet Union erupted. The US decided to build the same planes that flew over Putin's head today.
Although the details of the agreements were kept secret, leaks confirm three possible scenarios. Scenario 1, ceasefire and land swap. They agreed on everything but Ukraine. They agreed to resume air travel between the two countries, reopen embassies, lift sanctions and restart investments. But regarding Ukraine, it seems they have set a plan for a land swap. The logic is simple. If Russia occupies 100 square kilometers in Ukraine and the Ukrainian army occupies 10 square kilometers in Russia, Russia will hand over the 10 square kilometers in exchange for Ukraine's withdrawal from the Russian territories and keep the remaining 90 square kilometers.
This means that Putin will get what he wants, but at what cost?
Scenario 2, continuation of the status quo. They didn't agree on anything, but they haven't closed the door on negotiations. The problem here is that the Russian army is advancing daily, taking new territories and could reach the capital, Kyiv, soon. This means more casualties and more refugees. Europe has so far received 6 million Ukrainian refugees, and another 4 million have been internally displaced within Ukraine. That means 10 million Ukrainians have fled their homes because of the war.
Scenario 3, collapse of negotiations and escalation of war. This is the most dangerous scenario of all, because time is not on anyone's side. Trump is facing the midterm elections and the 2028 election. Putin might lose his ability to withstand the sanctions. Ukraine has lost most of its territory and can no longer resist for long. Europe is paying high prices for gas from alternative sources. What is more dangerous than all that is the proliferation of nuclear weapons. Last month, the US deployed tactical nuclear weapons in Britain for the first time since 2008. In response, Russia deployed nuclear weapons in Belarus, on the border with Poland, a NATO member.
We are living through another Cuban Missile Crisis, but this time with tactical nuclear weapons whose destructive power can be controlled from 0.3 to 50 kilotons. At the press conference, Trump and Putin exchanged compliments. Putin described Trump as a great president and said the war would not have happened if he were in office. Trump, in turn, praised Putin and called the meeting impressive. But the most important thing was Trump's announcement that he had convinced Putin to meet with Zelensky, and the foreign ministers have already started arranging the meeting.
This means Trump has solved all the problems between the US and Russia and handed Zelensky over to Putin to negotiate on their own.
Russia has nothing to lose. The war was imposed on it to defend its national security after NATO threatened to annex Ukraine. As for the potential losers, Europe will lose cheap Russian gas, Ukraine might lose its territories, the US might lose the Ukrainian rare earth minerals, Trump might lose the Nobel Peace Prize he dreams of, and the world will lose major supply chains of wheat, gas, and rare earth minerals.
The war in Ukraine is not like the war in Gaza.
Gaza doesn't export anything to anyone, while Russia and Ukraine are responsible for feeding the world and running its factories. So the most important question is, will Trump actually succeed in ending the war in Ukraine, or will he force Ukraine and Europe to make the concessions Putin needs? This is what we will find out in the coming days, when Putin meets with Zelensky in the decisive negotiations. That's all we have today on Decoding MENA. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Trump will succeed in ending the war in Ukraine? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to get all our new content. See you in the next episode.